What is it about your nose that you don't like?
Thank you. It's too round at the end. It makes me look like a camel.
My own personal recommendation would be to take off just a little bit off the top of the nose because it'll make for the tip to be nicer. It's not necessary, but I think that would be a better look.
Since we were in LA, we thought we'd investigate the topic of
You.
And beauty.
So while Sonny was at the plastic surgeon's, a man with the power to invest 50-year-olds with the glow of youth, I went one step further, well, half a mile actually, to meet a man who could accomplish the same feat on women 300 years or older.
Well, I'm head of paintings conservation here at the Los Angeles County Museum. Artwork such as this one, which was painted in the 17th century, can be very damaged over time. I mean, rarely do they survive totally intact.
They're usually around early 40s that they start to have their eyebrows start to come down little by little, and it's called browtosis, and so we have a lot of different surgeries that are involved for lifting up the brow.
A conservator, before he works on anything or tries to restore, is to really understand the artwork.
It's not only physical needs, but obviously these patients' population has a mental need as well, a psychological component. I usually just guide them and I try and find out what they want, and then occasionally they'll ask me what I think, and if I think if it's reasonable, I'll point things out to them. You know, I mean, I obviously see things that they don't see, and I'll point things out to them, but I think the idea is to really get to the core of what they want. What about the projection of your nose?
That's fine. I like big noses.
Okay. Yeah, it can be made better. Your tip will have to be made a little bit pointier.
What we do is we take a stick such as this and a cotton swab. We do want it to match enough so that it will not disturb, so that someone can look at this and not say, oh, what is that?
You know, it's like a car. The parts of the car have to fit together for it to be a pretty car. You can't just say, I like really, really nice rims, but the color is awful, or I like the really, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
got to go together, and so for a very small kind of pointy nose, it has to go in harmony with the rest of the nose.
Before chopping off my cartilage to achieve aesthetic harmony, I decided to seek a second opinion.
Yes. It's the self-esteem, the self-perception, as you call it, ego. I don't like to use that word, but it's actually a comfort level that a person has on their image.
Never one to be outdone, I also found myself a second doctor.
The principal goal of conservation really is to preserve the artwork, as I said, for future generations. And in working together cooperatively with the curator, we can now start talking about, well, how do we integrate some of these losses in the face?
For men, they actually have pec implants. Someone who's flat-chested, doesn't have chest, they can put in implants, pec implants through here. We put them in, yeah. So it's all about the illusion.
The idea is not to try to fool somebody. And it's very difficult to fool us today with a lot of the scientific technology that we have. We're not here to try to fool the public. We wanted to make their experience in viewing the art worthwhile. When this was fabricated back in the 17th century, it was heavily gilded, would have been very, very shiny, and that would have been the aesthetic back at that period of time. And so when we talk about conservation or restoration of a piece, you have to ask yourself, well, what are you going to restore it back to? What it looked like in the 1750s, what it looked like 10 years later, 50 years later. Technologically, we could re-gild this and look probably just what it looked like when it was first manufactured, but most people wouldn't like it. So sort of the matte appearance is actually much more attractive.
Absolutely, people want to have a natural look. They don't want to have the surgical, overdone look.
No one's going to come and say, make me look fake. I've never had it. Even if porn stars come here, they won't tell you that they want to look fake. They all want a natural look, but I want to be this big. So I think the notion is to look good. The whole idea of natural is kind of somewhat an oxymoron.
It takes somebody who has a clear concept of what reality is. Somebody who doesn't have a good concept of reality will never have a good concept of artistic mastery.
something like this, if one saw it in a dark chapel, one would almost feel that it was real and it existed in our space. And I think that was probably the intention of the artist, that it had this palpable quality.
Flesh is the most incredible medium. It's no different than paste and putty and paint and clay and wood, but it's less forgiving and it's irreplaceable. So it's the ultimate craftsmanship.
We're not looking at cosmetics. It's not cosmetic surgery that we're practicing here. We're not here to make it more beautiful according to my aesthetics. I mean, whose aesthetics do you use? For the most part, it falls to the curator, but it's to much extent, it's their aesthetics. But their aesthetics has been trained by the study of this particular artist, this particular medium. They have an informed aesthetic.
You know, often bad surgery is a result of bad technique. That's one thing. But it's also as a result of bad choice.
I think one has to take into account its age. I have heard people, even the general public, talk about paintings they've seen that have been cleaned and say, oh God, it looks so new, and it's, 500 years old.
Nobody likes to age. You may age gracefully, you may accept the wisdom, but nobody likes the way they look.
There are old cracks, as you can see here, running through the panel that have gone into the paint. These were checked for security. So yes, we are at the same time looking to preserve the physical object itself.
What we're doing, we're not putting the body together. We are actually traumatizing the body, and the body heals itself. We are limited by the functionality. The second thing we're limited by is when is enough.
We're all shooting for a goal, and that goal is 10. So when you're trying to go from a 2 to an 8, a large leap, you're going to make an improvement. And our goal is to make improvements. Our goal is not to make perfection. So you make a dramatic improvement. But if you take someone from an 8.5 and they want to be a 9.5, if you go a little too far, you're at 10.5. And 10.5 is unacceptable. And let me give you an example. Oh, I have a little bit, I have just a little bit of fat here. Well, if you remove a little more than a little bit, then you have a contour defect. You have a divot. You can never get that back. That's what I mean by 10.5. Overdone, just a little overdone. It could be in anything. Too pulled, too much removed, too much removed, too much removed. You want to get close, but then, the enemy of good is better.
Excellence is the enemy of good. Old Israeli saying. Where young conservators make mistakes is that they overdo it. They have to learn to stop. Stop cleaning that. Stop working on that inlay so much to try to make it perfect. Because that's when you make a mistake.
It's very important for the patient to realize that we're not attaining for perfection. We're attaining for improvement. And once they realize that, then we have gotten perfection.
And I think there's a healthy level of insecurity. I mean, everybody's striving to look better. Everybody. Why would you put on makeup? Why do you cut your hair? Why do you watch what you eat? I mean, aside from not getting a heart attack, why do you buy cute clothes? I mean, it's the same. If you were to say that it's different, you're wrong. It's different because it's a little extensive, but it's the same way. It's the way you present yourself to the world.
I think restoring pictures is something one should take, very carefully, and with the idea that yes, we can make it look more as the artist intended, but at the same time respecting its age.
Two things we cannot stop is time and gravity. That is against us. So anything we do with rejuvenating against the forces of time and gravity. As far as rejuvenation of the face, and depends on genetics, depends on sun exposure, the elasticity of the skin.
It also depends on how well you take care of the art. And we do a very good job of taking care of the art here at LACMA.